If you were a gamer in the mid-90s, there's a good chance you remember Star Wars Dark Forces. Released by LucasArts in 1995, this wasn't just another Doom clone dressed up in Jedi robes. This was a game that felt like a fresh chapter in the Star Wars saga. It gave fans something they'd been craving, a chance to step into the boots of someone who wasn't Luke Skywalker or Han Solo, but still had a critical role in the Galactic Rebellion. Dark Forces delivers a story that feels like it could slip seamlessly between the pages of the expanded universe, or right onto the big screen. Set before the events of A New Hope, the game introduces us to Kyle Katarn, a former Imperial officer turned mercenary. The game wastes no time throwing players into the thick of the action. In its opening mission, Kyle pulls off one of the most daring heists in Star Wars history, stealing the Death Star plans. Yes, long before Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor made it cinematic, Kyle was the original rebel hero who delivered the plans that set the events of the original trilogy in motion. As the story unfolds, we learn about the Empire's sinister Dark Trooper project, a program that threatens to give the Imperial forces a devastating edge. The Dark Troopers are a new kind of enemy, elite, droid-like soldiers equipped with cutting-edge weaponry and armor. You'll infiltrate top-secret Imperial installations, rescue prisoners, and take on wave after wave of stormtroopers, all while piecing together the full extent of the Dark Trooper threat. Kyle's journey isn't just about stopping the Empire, it's about redemption and finding a purpose in the chaos of war. He's not a Force user or a mystical chosen one. He's a guy with a blaster, a sharp mind, and the guts to take on impossible odds. Dark Forces was a true trailblazer in the first-person shooter genre. At first glance, it might seem like a Doom clone in Star Wars cosplay, but once you dive in, it becomes clear that LucasArts was aiming for something much more ambitious. While it took cues from the fast-paced run-and-gun style that Doom popularized, Dark Forces introduced mechanics that were ahead of their time and gave the game its own unique identity. Instead of flat, maze-like maps, Dark Forces featured complex, multi-tiered environments that felt like real places ripped straight from the Star Wars universe. These weren't just corridors where you blasted stormtroopers. They were fully realized locations like Imperial bases, rebel ships, and industrial facilities, each with its own atmosphere and challenges. Dark Forces often tasked players with finding key items, sabotaging Imperial equipment, or rescuing prisoners. This added a layer of strategy and puzzle solving that set it apart from its contemporaries. It wasn't just about blasting your way to the exit. You had to think on your feet, explore every nook and cranny, and piece together how to accomplish your goals. The arsenal of weapons was another highlight. Kyle Katarn starts with the classic Star Wars blaster pistol, but it doesn't take long before you're picking up heavy hitters like thermal detonators, the concussion rifle, and the always satisfying Imperial repeater. Each weapon had a distinct feel and was suited for different situations, encouraging players to experiment with their loadouts. And while most shooters of the era stuck with horizontal aiming, Dark Forces let you look up and down. It seems simple by today's standards, but back then, this was a huge leap forward for the genre. It made the combat more dynamic and gave LucasArts a chance to craft levels that took advantage of the added freedom. The combination of thoughtful level design, diverse weaponry, and groundbreaking mechanics made Dark Forces a standout title in its day. Even now, its gameplay holds up surprisingly well, offering a glimpse into a pivotal moment in gaming history when developers started pushing the boundaries of what shooters could be. Visually, Dark Forces captured the gritty industrial aesthetic of the Star Wars universe perfectly. From the cold, metallic corridors of Imperial bases to the dusty, rugged landscapes of Tatooine-like environments, each level was packed with detail. The textures were sharp for their time, and while the character models were undeniably blocky by modern standards, they conveyed enough personality to immerse players in the action. The Dark Troopers, in particular, stood out with their menacing design. The Jedi engine allowed for environments that weren't just flat plains, but actual 3D spaces with staircases, catwalks, and deep chasms. This gave the game a sense of depth that was leagues ahead of other shooters from the same era. Coupled with dynamic lighting effects, like flickering lights in a dark hallway or the glow of blaster bolts streaking past, Dark Forces felt more immersive than most games in 1995 had any right to be. What really sealed the deal for fans was the sound design. From the moment the game booted up, players were greeted with the unmistakable hum and pulse of Star Wars. The iconic blaster sounds, the mechanical whir of probe droids, And even the distinctive garbled chatter of stormtroopers made every encounter feel like it was ripped straight out of the movies. The attention to detail was impeccable. Hearing the ominous mechanical stomp of a dark trooper in the distance was enough to send a shiver down your spine. The music deserves its own spotlight. Using MIDI renditions of John Williams's legendary score, Dark Forces brought the Star Wars atmosphere to life. Themes swelled during moments of high action and dialed back during quieter, more suspenseful sections, creating a dynamic soundtrack that adapted to the gameplay. While the limitations of MIDI meant the sound wasn't as lush as a full orchestral score, the compositions were instantly recognizable and packed with nostalgia. Taken together, the graphics and sound created an experience that felt authentically Star Wars. It wasn't just a game, it was an opportunity to live out the kind of adventures you'd only seen on screen. Sure, the visuals may seem dated today, but the craftsmanship and artistry behind them remain undeniable. Combined with the incredible sound design, Dark Forces didn't just look and sound like Star Wars, it felt like it, and that's what kept fans coming back for more. First and foremost, Dark Forces proved that first-person shooters didn't have to be simple run-and-gun affairs. By introducing mission objectives, vertical level design, and environmental storytelling, it pushed the boundaries of what the genre could achieve. The game also marked the beginning of one of Star Wars' most beloved extended universe characters, Kyle Katarn. Starting as a lone mercenary, Kyle would go on to star in the Jedi Knight series, evolving from a blaster-wielding operative to a full-fledged Jedi Knight grappling with the light and dark sides of the Force. His journey became a cornerstone of Star Wars gaming, and for many fans, he remains a character as iconic as Luke, Leia, or Han. Dark Forces didn't just influence future games, it also expanded what fans thought was possible in the Star Wars universe. It was one of the first times players could immerse themselves in a gritty, boots-on-the-ground perspective of the galactic civil war. You weren't a Jedi or a smuggler, you were someone fighting in the shadows, doing the dirty work that made the Rebel Alliance's triumphs possible. That sense of immersion resonated with players and set the stage for later games to explore the Star Wars universe in more grounded and nuanced ways. Critically, the game was a hit, receiving praise for its atmosphere, gameplay, and ability to capture the Star Wars spirit. It sold well and earned a loyal fan base, many of whom still look back on it as one of the best Star Wars games ever made. Ultimately, Star Wars Dark Forces isn't just remembered as a great game, it's remembered as a pioneer. It redefined what licensed games could achieve, advanced the FPS genre, and gave Star Wars fans a chance to explore their favorite galaxy in ways they never had before. Its legacy lives on in the games it inspired, the characters it introduced, and the memories it created for a generation of players.